My career in special education started the way so many great things do. Absolutely, completely by accident. My best friend called me and said, "Hey, Jenny, my church is starting a Sunday school for kids with special needs. Will you come help me out in my classroom tonight?" And because she's my best friend, of course I said, okay. She didn't show up. I did. And apparently the universe was taking attendance that day. Because for 3.5 years, at the age of 16, I was running programs for these special need kids, creating public service opportunities for them, summer camps for them, so that they could experience their religious education in a way that was meaningful and not just simplified coloring sheets. There were 2 young ladies. They had spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy. They looked alike enough to be twins, and they took great delight in confusing me as to who was who. And they loved to play practical jokes. And I confess, I was their willing aid and abetter. When I played guitar for the groups to sing, there was one song they always had to sing. And I will not sing it for you because I like you all. But the words were, God made the, and you fill in the blank. God made the grass so green. God made my mom and dad. And they would wait until the end. And they would ask for, God made the butterfly. And everybody else is doing the butterfly. And they're going, gee, doing a pass with the butter because they're throwing butter because that was their sense of humor. Wrong one. You lied to me. This is the church. This is the church where it all began. The next calling, the next time I got tapped on the shoulder by the universe, the second time, I had help with an adult retreat weekend, and they called me up. The National Chrysalis Council called me up and said, will you help us redesign this curriculum for students with special needs? They had no idea that I'd worked at that other church in Middletown. It was 3 towns away. Of course, I said yes. We rewrote it, and then we spent 3 years going to churches trying to find someone who would let us in the front door. And what we learned is all the polite ways that an institution of this size will say no to children with special needs. We wrote the curriculum, we redesigned it, we made it so it would work, and for 3 years we tried and never got it off the ground. We did start 2 more small Sunday schools. I learned that the biggest barrier that our students with handicaps often have is not their disability. It's the adults guarding the door. Took a slight detour. I went into corporate America. I was there for about 3.5 years. I did the suits, the ties, the makeup, the hair, the whole thing. I was good at it. I was really good at it. I was too good at it. I was making $40 an hour in the 80s. My strength was warm calling. And that's when you call somebody up and say, can we come sell you insurance? If your employees don't have an insurance package, we'll do a group thing. National average was about 10 to 12%. My average was about 84%. In a half day's work, I could set enough appointments to keep 3 teams of insurance agents busy. For the rest of the week, I did filing and studied and passed my insurance exam and my real estate exam. And every day a piece of me died. Something was missing and I didn't know what it was. I had all the money I needed, but I was not happy. One day I came home. Who still reads a newspaper in here? Yeah. Half-page ad above the fold. You know that's prime, real estate. Cincinnati Public Schools needed people to work in their special education departments. They needed teachers' aides. I took it as divine intervention or divine comedy, whichever you like. That's the school I worked at in Cincinnati. Beautiful school, one of the toughest schools in the city, because the people who built that school sent their kids to private schools. I worked in public education with students with special needs for 34 years. One of the biggest things they taught me is that inclusion is not a warm and fuzzy feeling. It's a structure. Advocacy is not for the faint of heart. It's for those who are willing to be persistent. After a while, I landed at this school here in the district. By the time I got there, I was so tired. I was so worn out because I was the squeaky wheel. I sat there in IEP meetings and I was the lone voice saying, no, this is not good enough for our students. No, the law says we have to do this for our students. No. Morals say we need to do this for our students. We have to take care of all of our students. I was the one that the administrators would duck into classrooms to stay away from because they knew I was going to come asking for one more thing for my kids. And that really wears you down. After 24 years of teaching, I wrote my resignation letter, and I was going to turn it in on the way out of the building. Something made me pause. I signed it, locked it in my desk drawer, and went home. And the phone rang. Because you see, in addition to working full-time at Durant High School, I also worked for the hospital home-based program. And for those of you who don't know, those are the kids who are medically fragile, can't leave the home, maybe still in the hospital, maybe waiting adjudication for a felony, maybe wearing an ankle bracelet. One of my favorite kids broke his security guard's jaw before I got him. I would leave as soon as the bell rang and drive an hour to another school, teach for another 3 or 4 hours, drive an hour home, and then do lesson planning and grading for the next day, and I was bone tired. The phone call, it was hospital home-based. Hey, Runney, we got another one for you. And I did something that's really hard for me to do. I said no, and I hung up the phone. A few minutes later, the other woman who worked in the office there called me up and goes, Runney, he lives in your neighborhood. It's not a long drive. And he's blind. I'm like, I'm sorry. No. And then because those two wonderful ladies who work there know me so well, they called me back together. And they said, Jen, he needs you. He needs you. And that was Nathaniel. When I first took Nathaniel on, he was not in a good headspace. It was challenging for him to come. And when I started with him, he didn't know he knew how to write. And I taught that young man English and science for 3 years. And once he figured out he could write, he would tell me he had a reason to get out of bed in the morning. He won local, then regional, and national awards. That young man went to poetry slams in Tampa and in St. Pete. There is, in fact, a USF master's degree English teacher who worships him because he saw him at a slam and he said, I want to write like you. And this kid's still in high school. He will look at you and say, I saved his life. And I believe that that's true. But I will look at you and tell you that he saved me as well, because he kept me from walking away from a vocation that wasn't done with me yet. I taught for 7 more years. And then I retired. And most people, when they retire, they take up gardening. And me, I took up a PhD. And because apparently I'm the one that can't do things the easy way, I did an interdisciplinary PhD. And the one that has trouble remembering things, I now have 3 things braided together. I now have to learn 3 different academic languages when I have trouble speaking my own on some days. And they all service the one thing. They all service one vocation. and one life's work. And now, in retirement, I'm still learning, I'm still studying, and I'm still serving the vocation that would not let me walk away. Because here's what I tell you now. When a vocation calls you 3 times, the universe is no longer hinting. It's an assignment.